Today, we're going to dive deep into pleasure, the sacred and the transformative. We'll explore a fascinating and often overlooked topic, the role of vibrators in childbirth. My guest today will share her powerful birth story and how self-pleasure can be used as a powerful pain management tool. It can help increase oxytocin, the essential hormone of labor, the hormone of love, we often call it, and how we can normalize vibrators as a shame-free support tool for birth preparation and beyond. Hi, I'm Debra Pascali-Benaro, founder and director of Orgasmic Birth and host of the Orgasmic Birth podcast. So I invite you today, if you're out somewhere, you might want to put earbuds in, create safe space, settle in, open your heart, and get ready for a conversation that challenges the taboos and celebrates the wisdom of the body. Today, I'm honored to welcome Molly Moon. She is a yoga teacher, doula, and sacred songstress who brings elements of the forest and the wild, mysterious feminine into her music and life. She has been living the practice of yoga for over 20 years, and her passion for guiding and wild awakening spirit is now being re-inspired by her toddler as she works and studies in forest and nature school leadership. Molly is also an emotional intuitive, offering heart readings for spiritual healing and growth. And she joins us today from Vancouver Island in Canada. Welcome, Molly.
Thank you. What a pleasure to be here.
It is such a pleasure to have you here. Having had an opportunity, we've met and worked a little bit on other things, and knowing your birth story, I so appreciate you coming to share and inspire others on all the possibilities of birth. So I have to take back to the point of, when did you first hear that a vibrator could be something of a tool in birth to support you? And what was your initial reaction?
So in the final weeks leading up to my birth, I really did more of a deep dive into how to incorporate pleasure into birth. I saw your film, Orgasmic Birth. I also saw the film. Oh, and I should have asked you this before to help me remember, what is the name of the film that takes place in the 80s in the Black Sea in Russia, and they're birthing with dolphins, and what is that film called?
Birth as We Know It.
Birth as We Know It. Thank you very much. So yes, in the weeks leading up to my birth, I really did a deep dive into how to incorporate pleasure into my birthing experience. I saw your film, Orgasmic Birth. I saw the film Birth as We Know It, which I have been recommending those films to everyone. I also made my husband sit and watch them. And what was amazing about them is not only does it have all of the pleasure aspects and how birth can be beautiful, and we need to heal our emotions and go into a space that is safe for us. It also had just a lot of visuals of birth happening. And that's the part that was helpful for my husband, because he was going to be there along with me as not my only birth partner, also my best friend, who is a doula, who was there with us. But my husband was going to be in it, and he needed to know what was going to happen. But it was amazing to be able to watch it in those films, where we can understand, yes, our choice to birth at home is the right choice for us. And our work to maintain our relationship, with ourselves in a healthy way, is also going to help this birth. And on that deep dive that I was doing, you had just begun your podcast. It was the very, very beginning of it. So I got to be listening to that also while I was getting ready for my birth to come any day. And somehow in that sphere, Sheila Kamara Hay came up also, and it was her who I heard speak about the use of a vibrator in birth. and I attended a free master class from her. And in that class, she said she was doing a giveaway, and I just knew inside, I'm gonna win. And I was like, that's interesting. I haven't felt that before. This is a very strong feeling. I'm gonna win this giveaway. She was pulling names out of a hat, and she pulled 4 names before mine, and they weren't there. It had to be someone who was there live. So every name that she pulled, I was like, it's gonna be me. It's not me. That's weird. I think it's gonna be me. And finally she pulled my name, and I was the one who was there. And I was like, I knew I was gonna win. And I showed my big belly on the Zoom call for everyone. So I won this Oh Baby course from her, and I got to learn even more. So the phrase that she had that stuck with me was hand on clit. And she talked about, stimulating the clitoris during birth can be very helpful for pain management, and just helpful for the birth process in general. And my best friend slash doula, I live in Canada. She lives in the United States, in Wisconsin. So she came to be with me for a month, and we had 2 weeks together before the birth. So we sat down together and watched these videos. And so she was there with me learning about this tool of the vibrator. And that's the part that was really key. It wasn't only me that knew about it. Also, my birth team knew about it. So and you asked also what was my reaction to it. I'm a very open person. Far out, man. Let's do it. I'm into all of this stuff. It made perfect sense to me. I had already been absorbing into me that what puts a baby into you is what's going to bring a baby out of you, and that it's not a sterile medical condition that needs to be treated as such. It is a wet and messy, very sexual process, and that may or may not mean that you're feeling pleasure. In fact, my birth was very painful, but it's still that incorporating the movements, the moaning, and so the suggestion of a vibrator made total sense to me, and I jumped on board with that right away as, okay, definitely that is absolutely an option. I think I even stuck it in my birthing basket that I'd made up for myself with all my tools for my doula and my husband to use.
So take us to how did labor begin and take us through what that was like and what the birth was like.
So I had been feeling that he was coming very soon. Kind of waiting around that day with the feeling, okay, I think it's really happening. But it didn't happen that day until we went to bed. And as soon as I lied down in bed, actually, my husband and I were watching a movie in bed, enjoying our last moments together, just him and I. And when the movie ended, I lied down. It was a question of, did I just pee my pants or did my water break? And then within the next hour, I was kind of stomping, like heavy movement of my legs in circles around the kitchen, barely able to talk. They said, I think we need to call the midwife. She puts me on the phone. And I'm like, hello, yeah, I think you should come over now. And she's like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna come. So it went from 0 to 100.
Wow.
Super fast. And I was having back labor, even though he was in an okay position, very, very painful in the back. And when the contractions were paused, or in the spaces between the surges, let's say, my body was still tight. So my muscles, my arms were tight. And my most healing medicine is massage. So I had everybody, I had my husband, I had my doula slash best friend, Charisse. They're all ready to be giving me lots of touch, lots of massage, but it was painful to be touched. So, okay, we need to go back to the drawing board. And my thinking mind was gone. Like after that first hour, my mind was gone. It was like kind of a spiral of static. Well, just this process was happening in my body. So very intense. It started at 10 o'clock at night. People started arriving 11, 12 o'clock, middle of the night. And I just had this very painful, very intense experience all through the night until around 4 a.m. when there was a feeling that everybody needed to sleep and I was still in a lot of pain. My midwife lived very close. She was only about 7 minutes away from me, and she saw that there was just a lull in the night. So she went home to kind of rest a little bit, tidy herself up. My husband needed to sleep. Everyone needed to sleep. I was still in this tension in the body, the pain in my back, and the lights went off. She left. And because my thinking mind was just not there, I didn't know what to do. I'm also a trained doula, but you can't be your own doula.
Right.
You can't, because your mind goes primal. And so it was my doula who was there with me, watching those videos, understanding that a vibrator can be a tool. And she reached into my birth basket, put the vibrator in my hand, sent me into my bedroom with my husband, shut the door. Now my husband went face first on the bed, fell asleep. And so I just lied there and used the vibrator on the clitoris, and it relaxed my body for the first time for the whole night. Because remember, even between, they were trying to get me to relax between the contractions, but the muscles were just automatically tensing. So it helped my body to relax. And I sort of drifted in and out of sleep, waking up for the surges of the contractions and going back into resting for about a full hour. And then all of a sudden I leapt up with the classic, I can't do this anymore. Like, that's the line, you know, you're transitioning into the pushing phase. I was like, I can't do this. And so I was at home. There's no option of drugs. I didn't want to use the pain medication. I saw it as an initiation. Now, if it went that route into a medical emergency, I would have gone without question. But otherwise, for me, I saw it as an initiation, and I wanted to do it at home with just my body. But I was daydreaming about, oh, maybe just like a little bit of, what's that mask they use? There's some gas in there. Like, that sounds really good right about now. I'm kind of like up in the room getting tense again. They called the midwife to come, and she checked me and she said, you're at 9 centimeters. So the vibrator was there at the moment to allow me to just rest. My body relaxed, and my cervix was able to complete its dilation. So beautiful. That in itself would have been enough, and it is amazing. But what happened as the day went on, I had a very long phase of pushing, and I did not have a spontaneous ejection reflex. The unbelievable urge to push, it's not something that I experienced. Now, at the time, we didn't really know why it happened. My midwife wasn't worried. She said it's not very common, but it's something that can happen, and the baby's still coming down, and it's all happening. Now, later, like just very recently, within the last few months, my son is already 2.5. I've been doing a lot of inner work, working with a coach, and I started to understand that my way of existing in the world, of accomplishing things, achieving things almost by force, pulling them down from the ethers, creating projects, it all came from this force within me rather than allowing and flow. And it was an explosion in my psyche to understand that's the way I gave birth. Not through, there wasn't that flow process. It was by just my own force. So I'm now in a process of learning to flow more, and of allowing things to happen not in the way that I plan, because I really believe that birth is a manifestation of what's going on inside of us, in our bodies, in our minds, in the connection between the two. So that birth process of giving birth only by my own force and only by my own strength was a very unique one, and it was very challenging, just my strength of pushing out the baby. But what also happened is the contractions started to slow down. So instead of about 30 an hour, I was having only 3, and the baby was still coming down. It was always an option if you want to go to the hospital. She was checking the heartbeat and checking me always, and she saw everything is okay. I didn't feel like that was his story to go, my son's story, to be born at the hospital. And I couldn't imagine getting in a car. So I decided to use the vibrator again. And this time to not to relax the body, but actually to increase the oxytocin. And so I was able to bring on more contractions by using the vibrator. And I used those contractions to push the baby down. So my the funniest moment from my birth, I will remember forever, and I think everyone else will too. I'm on my back, kind of propped up by pillows. I've got one foot on my husband's shoulder, one foot on my midwife's shoulder, vibrator on my clitoris, and we're just waiting for a contraction. We're just there waiting, and then I'm relaxing, I'm breathing, stimulating the clitoris with the vibrator, and the contraction came. So then I'm up and I'm pushing, and in that way, I was able to push my baby out at home with no medication. I had a highly empowered episiotomy, which is a cut. I call it empowered because when he was really about to come out, she saw that probably because I'd been pushing very hard, it looked like probably I would have a very rough tear. And also, it is like, just to get him out, she very gently offered me if I would like to have an episiotomy, to have a cut. And I said, wow, that's an amazing idea. Yes. And so she waited until it was the right moment, and she did it. And also, she's an old school midwife, trained in Germany. She'd been practicing midwifery for 40 years. We were somewhere in the 3000th birth for her. And she did it without injecting numbing substance. And the truth is that you actually don't need it. There's so much going on there. So I could feel the sensation of the slice without any pain whatsoever. And immediately after he was born, the next push, the next contraction, he came out, she stitched me in my bed, and I healed completely. And I didn't have a big rough tear. It was one neat little line, and it helped him to come out. So with the help of the vibrator and a very well-placed, well-done episiotomy, my son was born on our bed. And I stayed in that bed for almost 30 days, around the house, but that bed was very important for the immediate postpartum. And it's if the vibrator wasn't there, it still would have happened. But wow, in those 2 instances, in 2 very different ways, it was the most important birth tool that I had, because I couldn't be touched, and all the things that we planned couldn't happen. So it became, with how my birth was, the most important tool, genuinely.
What a powerful story, Molly. Oh my goodness. I could just feel all the different aspects, and it's wonderful to hear. And as you talk about it, it is a tool, right, that we can use. And in that birth kit that, as you said, really worked for you on relaxation and got your oxytocin going, kind of brought those sensations, those pushing surges to happen. So I know for a lot of people listening, they're thinking like, how is this for your doula and your midwife and your partner? How do you feel the team responded to this?
So my doula was on board from the beginning. It helped that she was there with me while we were listening to the videos and podcasts that talked about it. But let's imagine that she wasn't there and I learned about it. I would have told her about it and given it to her as one of my tools. And I honestly think that most doulas are going to be pretty okay with that. They're already seeing you naked on all fours, moaning. There's fluid everywhere. I really believe that most doulas today in this day and age are going to be really okay with it. And honestly, they will probably be really grateful to learn about it if you're the person that taught them this, that it's a birth tool, because it can be used for their other births. Doctors and midwives, it's going to depend so much on who they are. My midwife was so fine with it. Definitely in all her 40 years / 3,000 births, she had not seen someone lie on their back and put their foot on her shoulder and use a vibrator. But she was fine with it because she saw that it worked. And even with surprise, oh, that did bring a contraction. Okay, let's go. Let's keep going. So, once she understood that worked, then of course, she rolled with it. But even before then, before she knew, she was very allowing for me to do what I needed to do in the space. And I think that what it depends on a lot is the attitude of the person. That if I came into it feeling really awkward, uncomfortable, and I had a lot of shame around it, that vibration goes out and people can start to feel that discomfort and almost take it in as their own. So honestly, the way to start to feel comfortable with it in birth is to become comfortable with the vibrator before your birth.
I agree that so much, right? And we have to really address if there is shame around it. A lot of people think, okay, well, they associate vibrator as a very sexual tool, but in the way that you're describing, it doesn't feel like a sexual tool. It feels like a real tool for labor and birth. Can you talk about that a bit?
Absolutely. It's a very interesting, if you're using a vibrator when you're not in the labor process, it will feel very sexual and there can be a lot of pleasure that comes with it. My experience with it, it was not a sexual experience. There wasn't the arousal, the stimulation, there was no orgasm. It was literally just relaxing me. It was just relaxing my body or helping to bring oxytocin without the actual feeling of sexual intensity. In the same way that I had the episiotomy, I had a cut done without the area, the perineum being frozen. That area is already doing so much. You're not going to feel things in the same way that you are if you're just perfectly relaxed on a regular day having sexual arousal. It's a very, very different feeling, and it is very neutral. And that's how it fully became a tool for me.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's really important for people to hear. And, if someone's listening and still curious, but feels a little hesitant, is a little bit unsure, what advice would you give them about using a vibrator?
I would suggest finding one that you like, that feels good to you. Get it before you're in labor. If you're already pregnant, then that's fine. Start now. If you're not even pregnant yet, then that's also a great time to start. Get it home, go into your room, shut the door, turn off the lights, go under the covers, be very private, and just start to explore it. And you can also explore it in other areas. It doesn't have to be just automatically right to the vulva and the clitoris. You could start touching it on your shoulders. You could feel the sensation on your breast, maybe not even on the nipple. You could just do it on the breast. And we'll talk afterwards about how the vibrator can also be helpful on the breast once you're breastfeeding. But even before that, I recommend trying it in different areas of your body, and then eventually finding its way to your clitoris, and maybe you'll start to like it.
Yes. Great advice, because I do agree. They're so good to find all our erogenous zones and to relax the body in many different places. So you already led into it a little bit. How can vibrators be helpful for people on their postpartum journey? Because there's a lot to take in that's happening as the body heals and shifts and we nurture and care for a little one.
So, clogged ducts and mastitis are something that can happen kind of at any time to anybody who's breastfeeding. And I luckily only had it happen once, and the breast gets very red and swollen and sore in a spot. And I reached out to my doula teacher, who was really a master in this craft, and asked her, what do you recommend? I definitely would like to do everything I can to treat this and not just take antibiotics. If it gets bad, then that's the ultimate treatment. But she said, just get an electric toothbrush and vibrate that on the spot that's red and swollen. And I was like, well, I don't have an electric toothbrush. And my husband said, why don't you use your vibrator?
I
Yes,
love it.
my vibrator. So I got my vibrator out again, and I was able to move the clog and the red swollen part, and it just needs to be kind of shaken out. I also used a green cabbage leaf to help take that down. And within 24 hours, it was gone.
Yeah. Fantastic.
I
Yeah.
don't have an electric toothbrush. Just use your vibrator.
Use your vibrator. I agree. So many uses, right? And a great tool to reconnect with your own pleasure as your body has shifted and changed after birth as well. So
Absolutely.
what would be one last tip you'd like to leave everyone that's listening that might be preparing for birth or supporting a birth?
To allow yourself to think outside of the box and to get comfortable with what might feel uncomfortable to you now, because you never know what will be the thing that will help get you through the beautiful, powerful, immense initiation that birth is.
So beautifully said. Thank you so much, Molly, for sharing your story and your wisdom. And how can people be in touch with you, and what offerings do you have that they might also want to connect with you on?
Sure. Well, my website is www.medicinewomanyoga.com. And on Instagram, I'm at Medicine Woman Yoga. And right now in life, it's pretty quiet, pretty chill with my 2-year-old. But I do heart readings, intuitive readings on the emotional body, and I'm able to offer consultations as a doula, or advanced consultations for yoga teachers. And also, I'm really happy to talk to anybody about this topic. If you have questions, if you're feeling nervous or unsure, you're welcome to reach out to me. Probably Instagram would be the best way. And just send me a line, and I'd love to chat to you. You know, I'm not an expert in this field, but the experience of this in my birth is it really opened me up to want to shout from the rooftops that there is something that we can do to make natural birth even more pleasurable. Even if it's not that sexual pleasure, just reducing the pain, allowing rest when it's needed. So happy to just chat to anyone if you just want to ask some questions about my experience, or to help you out with your experience that might be upcoming.
Thank you so much. And to everyone listening, you'll see Molly's links in the show notes. So wherever you're listening, go when you have time into those notes. And I was just letting Molly know we are about to release a new vibrator for childbirth, the first one that's been co-branded and really tested to bring all these benefits. So definitely look in the show notes and check out our new tool for birth and beyond. And we hope you'll rate and review our podcast, share this episode with friends and colleagues so more people can open to comfort and pleasure and ways that you can support yourself during labor, birth, and beyond. And we hope you'll join us next week for the next episode of the Orgasmic Birth Podcast. Thank you so much.